Nearly spread even immediate Yella, Hackett Sullivan the Grasta, the last one agreeing in this great time the Catholic Liquor, Consacra to Gakinia, Condefen, I was going to shut the Conquentus, Kukuchi, their father is who gets has, Unity Jim, the Christian, and
Good morning, members. Good morning, members of the executive. Good morning. We have some people zooming in. You're all very welcome to this meeting. Just that if everybody can knock their microphones on mute until we wish to call. I'd first of all like to call on our COVID procedures for today, Mr. Kilfeather.
Caherlock and members, the National Standard Operating Guidance for Attendance at Council meetings provide that all in attendance be informed at the start of the meeting of the COVID-19 control measures in place. I would like to draw your attention to a few issues. Each person attending this meeting in person should have completed a COVID declaration form before entering the room. These forms will also serve as a record of attendance for contact tracing purposes if required. This meeting room has been prepared in accordance with the Standard Operating Guidance. Face coverings must be worn by all attendees when entering and leaving the room. There should be no congregating in the building before or after the meeting. A one-way system is in place for entering and exiting the room. Exit will be via the side door. In compliance with the recommendation in the Standard Operating Guidance, the meeting time will not exceed 1 hour 55. Attendees must adhere at all times to the 2-metre physical distancing and follow the public health advice in relation to hand hygiene and respiratory etiquette. A response plan is in place in the event that an attendee at the meeting feels unwell or is displaying possible COVID-19 symptoms. An isolation room has been provided. If anyone feels unwell during the meeting, you should alert myself or Kevin and you will be escorted to the isolation room. Thank you, Claire.
Thank you, Mr. Kilfeather. Now, members, I wish to suspend standing orders this morning and call for an adjournment of this meeting as a mark of respect to our former colleague, the late Councillor Paul Conmay. Paul was elected to Sligo County Council in 1979 and served until 2009. Paul was a dedicated public representative who gave a lifetime of service to his community and was held in very high regards by the people of West Sligo. Paul Conmay was greatly respected by the elected members he served with, and his wide range of interests were reflected in the issues he tabled for discussion in this council chamber. Paul held a number of important positions during his time as councillor. He served as Last Caherlock in 2000 and chaired the Sligo County Council's Strategic Policy Committee on Environment. He also made a major contribution during his term as chair of the Northwestern Health Board. The strong presence of councillors and former councillors who attended Paul's funeral was an indication of the regard in which Paul Conmay was held. He gave great service to his county and to this council. And as Caherlock, I extend on behalf of all the members and executive of this council sympathies to his wife Breda and their family. Areshje, Gorevan and Councillor Mullaney.
I served with Caherlock with Councillor Paul Conmay from 04 to 09. And I'd have to say he was one of the most hard-working councillors I encountered in the chamber. He was a very enthusiastic public representative. And I think the fact that he got 30 years in office says more about him than anything I can say about him here today. From that term, we have only left Councillor Bree, Councillor Queenan and Councillor Baker. So I think that's proof that it's very hard to get at that length in public life. He served, as I said there, chairman of the Health Board, very hard-working chairman of the Northwestern Health Board. He was very committed to his constituencies, worked tirelessly on behalf of them. And any issue he felt that needed to be addressed, he addressed it and worked very hard to deliver on it. He was also very committed to his family. He continually talked about their achievements and he was very proud of them. So I want to extend my sympathy to his wife Breda, to Caroline, Siobhan, Elaine and Keith and the extended Conmay family. Thanks very much, Claire.
Thank you. Councillor Bree.
Look, I wish to support the proposal that this council would extend its sympathy to the family of a former councillor Paul Conmay and that our meeting would adjourn its business as a mark of respect. Paul Conmee was first elected to this council in 1979, and he represented the people of West Sligo at local government level for a period of 30 years. And during his time in public life, he was a loyal member of and an ardent and zealous supporter of Fine Gael, and I recollect his particular support of Enda Kenny, Michael Ring, and local Minister of State John Perry. And while Paul and I had our political differences over the years, it also has to be said that he wasn't too fond of Fianna Fáil and their PD allies either. Paul was always straight talking, and his contributions to many lively and spirited debates in this council chamber are memorable. In addition to serving as vice chairman of the council, as you say, in 2000, he also had the distinction of serving as chairman of the Northwestern Health Board in 2001. He had a deep sense of commitment to those he served in West Sligo, and in particular to those people who solidly supported him over the years. And I also wish to be associated with the vote of sympathy to his wife Breda, his son Keith, his daughters Caroline, Siobhan and Elaine, and to his extended family and to his many friends. Thank you, Carol.
Thank you, Councillor Queenan.
I'd like to be associated with the vote of sympathy. As Councillor Priest said, he was a Councillor Conmee with 30 years elected member of Sligo County Council. I served him for 10 years. We had our differences, but when it came to local issues, we worked as a team. He was a very strong member of Fine Gael, I'm proud of it. But ironically, one of his great heroes was the late Jackie Healy-Rae, who he brought in a scrone on one occasion. We had a great night. So he was so committed to local issues, local roads, planning, all of them issues that he served his people so well with. So again, I want to be associated with the vote of sympathy, and to his wife Breda and son and daughter. We send our message to them today. And remember him, he was really one of the great characters here at Sligo and County Council in the past. And I cannot forget the many battles since I've been councillor Bree had here in the chamber on debates when it came to estimates and other kind of issues. I think Bree won most of them, I have to say.
Thank you, Councillor Clerk.
I also would like to extend my sympathy to Paul's family and his wife Breda and family. There was no doubt he was an outstanding public representative, and many issues in West Sligo are still standing there as tribute to his hard work for the area. One of them being Waterworld, and his work with planning and his commitment to health. He was an avid advocate for cancer services. He fought very hard here in Sligo to retain the cancer services, and as already been said, he was a great supporter of John Perry, Minister, and his legacy will live on long into the future. He's still very highly regarded in West Sligo, a tribute to the huge funeral in this time of COVID that was held to lay him to rest. Thanks, Ciara.
Thank you, Councillor Fox.
Thank you, Chair, and I would like to be associated with what has been said here already this morning. Paul Conmee was a larger-than-life individual. He was never shy about speaking his mind. He was a staunch Fine Gael supporter and member of the Fine Gael party, should I say. And I've often heard in-depth conversations in our home about Paul Conmee, and he was selected at convention the same night as my father back in 1979, and they sat in this chamber and represented the people to the best of their ability. Paul was very passionate about being representing the people, and you can see that the result of that, the hard work that he's done, you can see it in the area that it represents today. You can see the amount of work that has been achieved along with his colleagues on Sligo County Council. The life of many people he represented over the years has been enhanced, and I wish my condolences to Breda and the family, and may he rest in peace. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Gilroy.
And again, I'd like to be associated with them. I never had the pleasure of meeting Paul. he sounds like a very solid public representative. I kind of did a little bit of reading last week when the time he died, and I think it wasn't just Councillor Bree. He clashed with Councillor Queenan a few times as well. And this is the life. But it's great to hear that people have such positive things to say. It was lovely to see such a turnout for his funeral, and I suppose we all have to kind of recognise that we're during this time, we might not be able to make the show that we could normally make at a funeral, and it was nice to have the guard of honour for him. And I hope that means something to the families, because every one of us knows that the families of every councillor pay a price, and it's nice to acknowledge that and maybe repay it in some way by making the appearance, as many of the councillors did the previous few weeks before, and for Patsy. So to his wife Breda, to Caroline, Siobhan, Elaine and his son Keith, I'd like to give my condolences and be associated with the proposal. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Gibbons.
Cathaoirleach, on behalf of Sinn Féin, grouping on this council, and previous members of Sinn Féin, Sean McManus and Chris McManus, who served with Paul Comey, we'd like to be associated with the vote of sympathy to Paul's wife, Bridge, and the family. I was first elected to Sligo Borough Council in 1999, and during that time, I remember I met Paul. I met him at the count, and in fairness, the same as everybody else, he had a good handshake for me and whatever else, and I kind of got on with him. I think that was my first time ever to meet him, and we got involved a number of years later, and Councillor Bree would have been involved in other people that's was in this chamber at the time, was in relation to Save the Cancer Services with at Sligo General Hospital, and it was something that he got very much, like the rest of us, was very passionately involved, and only rightly so. Now, I know that didn't actually turn out the way that Paul wanted at the time or whatever, but that's for another day. But the one thing, and I would say in relation to Paul, I always found Paul a very straightforward person. I remember meeting him after he wasn't successful at the election that he wasn't successful at, and I met him downstairs, and he actually didn't know what to do with himself. He was wondering what was he going to do with all this time that was on his hands, and that would have to give it as kind of the character and the type of guy that he was. His whole life rotated around helping people and working with people, as us as councillors do. But I think Paul always put in that extra bit of an effort, and once again, as I says, I would like to be very much associated with the vote of sympathy. Then that's on a personal note. As I says, he was a true gentleman. Thanks very much.
Thank you. Councillor Martin Baker.
Dara, can you hear me?
Yes, Martin, go ahead.
I'd just like to pay a tribute to Councillor Comey, to his wife Breda and family. He was a truly dedicated member of Sligo County Council, always wholly committed to his region, his community and his county. And as previously said, he was on the health board. And after he left politics, he was on the to be VEC or ETB for another term, and he was always a very valued member. And I know in the chamber, we always had a very lively chamber when Paul was there. And I remember there used to be huge banter with himself and Albert Higgins, and I still can remember him coming in on the phone and he'd shout over, "Hi Higgins, do you know who's on the phone? Jackie Healy-Ray." And he used to be messing, so it was great to have known such a character, always true to his party, and you knew where he stood. After a meeting was over, he'd have the bit of banter, so just to be sorely missed by everyone.
Thank you, Martin. Councillor Rosaleen O'Grady. Are you on mute, Rosaleen? You're on mute, Rosaleen.
Thank you, Cathaoirleach. I too would like to be associated with the vote of sympathy, and it's very important that this meeting stands adjourned as a mark of respect to one of the great characters of local politics. He was a true, loyal Fine Gael member, and loyalty above all has to be respected no matter what you're loyal to. So he certainly was loyal to his party and loyal to those who ran for election within his party. I had the privilege of working with him on the Northwestern Health Board, and indeed him and I were on visiting hospital committees. So I spent a lot of time with Paul going to the top end of Donegal and and a lot of the West Cavan and Leitrim and Sligo doing hospital visitations. He always spoke so warmly of his wife Breda and his children, and they always came in, no matter where we were. At some stage there was discussion on Breda or his children. So he obviously had great support from home, and he always was the first to say that the support that he got was immeasurable. So I want to offer Breda my deepest sympathy and her children, and indeed her grandchildren, on the death of a great husband, father and grandfather. Thank you, Cathaoirleach.
Thank you. Councillor Martin Connolly.
Yes, Cathaoirleach, I would like to be associated with a vote of sympathy. I didn't know the man personally. I knew him from Fine Gael meetings, and he always spoke his mind there as well. So I would just like to send my sympathies to his wife Breda and his family, and thanks very much, Cathaoirleach. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Mullaney.
Yeah, I just got an apology from Sinead Maguire, so came up unexpectedly.
Yeah, and I had an apology from Councillor Paul Taylor and Councillor Thomas Walsh as well, who were unable to attend.
And Marie Casterly can't get online for some reason. She just texted.
Oh, okay, members. Right. Thanks, members, for your votes. Sorry, and Tom Kilfeather would like to say something on behalf of the executive.
Thank you. Just on behalf of the staff, current and past, I'd like to extend our sympathies to Paul's wife Breda, to his daughters Caroline, Siobhan and Elaine, and his son Keith, and his family and friends. And as the members have said, Paul was indeed a character, but he was also a fine public representative, and it was a pleasure to work with them and to engage with them over those years. Thank you, Cathaoirleach.
Thanks, Mr. Kilfeather. Members, so with your agreement, we will reconvene this meeting now, as next Monday is the date of our AGM. With your agreement, could we convene this meeting to this Friday, the 18th at 2 p.m? Now, the reason we're going for 2 p.m, some of the members have an earlier meeting, so I'm trying to facilitate those members. So, and I could, if
I propose that.
right, yeah, okay. And could I just ask members, if with your cooperation, as well as next Friday will be my last meeting as Cathaoirleach. There's 63 items on the agenda, so just if any of the members could look at possibly deferring some of their items to the municipal meeting or the July meeting, I'd like to clear the agenda, and whoever the incoming chairperson or chair is, that they would have a clean, I suppose, a clean new agenda for them taken over. So if you could, sorry, good morning, Councillor Casterly, we can just see you now. Can you hear us, Marie?
Good morning, yeah, apologies now, yeah, thank you.
Would you like to be associated with the votes of sympathy?
Yes, I had sent on the votes with Councillor Clark, but yes, I didn't know Councillor Comley, but from what I've heard about him, he was a very fair and hard-working councillor, very popular, liked by many people, and I just want to pass on my sincere sympathies to his family, friends and the wider community. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Casterly. So with your agreement, members, we'll reconvene on Friday at 2 o'clock, and as I say, if I'll be asking for your cooperation on Friday to clear the agenda, but if there's any items on it that you can defer, or that, I would appreciate it, and hopefully we'll get through it, and we'll have our AGM then next Monday. Thank you, members.